welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about stories. So first, think about this. Do you ever stay up late? And have you ever stayed up all night? Think about this so we can share during class. Okay? We're going to listen to 3 people telling some stories. Let's listen and take some notes. First, where did the experience take place? Then, what did the person do during the night? And did they enjoy the experience? Why or why not? Let's listen to number 1.
Track 2.23. James.
You've been to the Himalayas, haven't you?
Yeah, I had this one unforgettable night up in the mountains in Nepal. There was a full moon and we were up in the mountains. So we were in the jungle, below the snow line. We could see the snow line up in the mountains up ahead. But as the moon rose, because it was a very big, low, pale moon, and we watched it come up through the mountains, we just couldn't take our eyes off it, and the hours just passed, just talking about the sky, basically as you watch the moon rise and change color. It lit up the whole valley of the Himalayas and the snow, and it was just beautiful. And of course, then you'd choose a little area of the sky. We had binoculars and a telescope, and we just concentrated on a square and watched the shooting stars as they would fly past. And you could be guaranteed, within about 5 minutes, to see a shooting star.
Amazing.
And it just took all night. We had a little fire dug in the ground, keeping us warm, and some food, and the next minute the sun was coming up.
Okay? Now, let's listen to number 2.
Track 2.24. Rosie.
I went to the Country Thunder Music Festival, and it's great. It's just completely wild. The whole experience is crazy, but I was really lucky because I was there when it was sunny and so there was no rain. And I think it's crucial when you're at a music festival to have at least one morning when you can see the sun come up. So there's clearly no point in going to bed because everybody's up anyway, and it's really noisy. So we just went out and went dancing and stuff, and then sort of just hung out and sat on top of this hill and watched the sun come up, and it was amazing. And it was really hard to stay awake all that time, but it was definitely worth it.
And how was the next day?
The next day was... a lot of sleeping was involved in the next day, which is a difficult thing to achieve during Country Thunder.
Okay? And the last one, number 3.
Track 2.25. Philip.
A few years ago, there was a talk show host that came to do one show in Iowa, and my friends and I are huge fans, so we really wanted to see the show. So, we went to the studio where they were filming the night before and camped out to try and get tickets. And unbelievably, there were about, I think, 20 people there in front of us. But we thought, oh, that's fine, we'll camp out. This'll be great. And we spent the whole night on the sidewalk, and obviously just didn't sleep. It was a total nightmare. It was so cold, and we felt terrible the next day. But the thing that kept us going was that we were going to see this show, literally our hero, and go and see this talk show host. The next day, when they were about to film the show, they called the people in and had a line, and we didn't realize we were the standby line, and they had 20 tickets, and there were 20 people in front of us, and so we slept out the whole night and spent the whole night there and didn't even get to see the show, unfortunately. We were really upset.
That's awful. Did you see it on the TV when they showed it?
Yeah, we did, but it wasn't the same.
Okay? So, if you notice, all of these people stayed up all night, right? For different reasons. So, in the first experience, we know that it happened in the Himalayas, in Nepal, in the jungle, right? They watched the moon, talked about the sky, and they also watched the shooting stars fly past. And yes, of course, they enjoyed the experience. Now, in number 2, it was at Country Thunder, which is a country music festival. What they did is that they went out, they went dancing and hung out, and they also watched the sun come up. Now, this girl also said that they enjoyed the experience a lot. Now, if you notice, number three is the only person who mentioned that they didn't enjoy the experience because they were very cold and they were upset for not getting the tickets. If you remember, this happened in Iowa, and they camped out to try to get tickets to see this talk show because they really admire the host, but unfortunately, they didn't get the tickets. Now, I want you to please read these 10 sentences. Pause the video while you read them and find out what they have in common. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we have here a little story, right? Even though it was years ago, I actually remember that night very well. The stars were bright and the wind was generally calm. I was with the group I usually camp with, and it was getting late. We were literally about to call it a night when we heard a sound. It startled me so bad I practically jumped out of my chair. All of us basically became statues and watched the tree line. Eventually, we saw a deer and her baby step out from the woods. We all started to smile, especially my friend Susan. They saw us and ran back into the woods at a particularly high speed. Ironically, they were a lot more afraid of us than we were of them. Now, if you notice, in this story I used adverbs. Actually, generally, usually, literally, practically, basically, eventually, especially, particularly, and ironically. And what these adverbs have in common is that they end with ally. So, if you remember, most adverbs ending ly. Now, these are a little different because you're taking the words that already end with an L, like actual, general, and usual, and you are adding the ly, so it ends with ally. Now, I want you to please help me identify what these adverbs do. For example, which adverb do we use to emphasize that something is surprising? Should we use actually, basically, especially, eventually, or generally? Yeah, if I want to emphasize that something is surprising, I should use actually. Now pause the video while you identify the rest. Okay, so if I want to say that something is more than average, I can say particularly. In most cases, we could say generally or even usually. In a literal manner or sense, exactly, literally. Virtually or almost, we could say practically. A roughly accurate account, I don't want to be very specific, basically. After a long delay, after a long time, eventually. When we want to single out a person, thing, or situation over all others, I don't want them to be in a group, then I will say especially. When I want to show a paradoxical or a coincidental situation, we should use ironically. And under normal conditions, normally, we can say generally or usually. Okay, great guys. So, I want you to please help me complete the sentences using the correct adverb. For example, it was a cold night. Should I say practically cold night or particularly cold night? Yes, we're going to say a particularly cold night because here I want to say that it was colder than the most nights. Okay, guys? Now we're going to check this during our class, okay? I will see you then. Bye-bye!